Now let's begin work on supporting drag and drop of image files. And I'm going to start with a dialog that gets displayed when the user drags files over any share page. And basically any share page that has a nav bar anyway. So I'm going to start in index.php. And index.php is loading this common head content. And I'm going to add the droppable stuff to this common head content. So this is where the nav bar gets loaded, so this will also be where I'm going to call it a dropper gets loaded. So in common head content, here's where the nav bar gets loaded, and I'm going to add load content assets includes dropper content.php. And when you run this, it's just going to call a function called dropper, which will enable everything we need enabled. So let's go ahead and start working on this dropper content. And I'm going to start by copying the login content because that's on the simple side. So login content, refactor, copy, and I'm going to call this dropper content. And let's start by getting rid of most of this stuff. And then for the JavaScript, I'm going to Control F to find and replace, actually Control R to find and replace. And everywhere in this file where login occurs, I'm going to replace it with dropper. And then this part resets the values. I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to get rid of this as well. Get rid of the links. So here's my dropper dialog. And we'll start with this for now. I'm going to get rid of all of the code inside these functions. This one's fine, the cancel button. And then for the HTML, I'm going to change the title to upload images. And then I'm going to get rid of all of this HTML for now. And let's start with a new div box. And then I'm also going to have a list of the files that are going to get uploaded. So this is going to be dynamically updated whenever the user drops files onto the dialog or clicks OK and they get uploaded. So div id equal uploading files. And then inside of here, I'm going to put some text that says click OK to upload the following files. And then I'm also going to put an unordered list called uploading files list. And basically, if they've dropped some files, I'm going to show this box. So it'll say, click OK to upload the following files, and I'll show a list of the files that are going to get uploaded. And then if there are no files to upload, they've just opened the dialog, then I'm going to hide this thing. So it just says drop your content here. So let's go ahead and move on to actually testing this. I'm going to go ahead and add actually, I'm just going to load the page now. I'm going to go back to the browser and I'm going to go to my share home page. And good. So I get upload images, drop your content here, click OK to upload the following files. Okay, so cancel button works. So I don't actually want to show the dialog when the page loads. What I want to do instead is when the page loads, I want to set up some event handlers that deal with various events that are generated by dragging and dropping files. So there's a drag over, a drag enter, a drag leave, and a drop. And I need to respond to all of those events. And the way I'm going to do this is inside of this dropper function, I'm going to have a subfunction, which is local to dropper, called show dialog. And then when I call this function inside of dropper, that's what's actually going to show the dialog. But I'm not going to call this right away. What I'm going to do instead is set up some event handlers. And I'm going to put them on the document so that the whole page is live. So that's $document. To attach an event handler, and I'm going to attach multiple ones, I'm going to chain these. So I'm going to say dot on. So the first one is drag over. And the code for drag over is pretty simple. All I have to do is stop propagating the event. So that's going to be event.stop propagation, and then also event.prevent default. So this just says basically don't do anything when you drag over the document window, and that disables the default behavior. And then I'm going to copy and paste this 3 times and start with this for my drag enter, drag leave, and drop. So what I need to do is when you drag over a page, basically any HTML element that you drag over on that page is going to have this event handler, and so you're going to get multiple calls to enter and multiple calls to leave. And you really only want to change the state of the world when the first one happens, when the first enter happens, you want to show the dialog, and when the last leave happens, you want to hide the dialog. So you grab some files, you drag in, you want to show the dialog, and then any other HTML element you drag over, you don't want to make any changes. And then when you leave the page, you want to hide the dialog again, in case you drag and then don't drop on the page. So the way to do this is to keep track of how many drag enters and drag leaves there are. So I'm going to create a local variable called var drag count, which is going to be 0 to start. And then in my drag enter, I'm going to increment that value. And in drag leave, I'm going to decrement that value. So in drag enter, if the count is 1 after I've incremented it, that's the first time I've dragged into the document, so I want to show the dialog. If drag count equal 1, then show dialog. And then in drag leave, if it's the last drag, then drag count is going to be 0. So if drag count equal 0, hide dialog. So I have to write one of those. And that's basically just function hide dialog, and then this line of code right here. And I'll go ahead and call hide dialog here too in case I want to add anything else there. So those are my event handlers, except for drop. Let's go ahead and test this part, see if our dialog gets shown correctly. So there's my page, Here's some pictures that I can test. Make this smaller. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag over here. And you see when I drag in, it shows the dialog, and when I drag out, it hides the dialog. Make it a little smaller. So I'm going to drag this all over the place. No changes. When I'm out of the area, it goes away.